What is this?
It's your personal invitation.
What group are you with?
We are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, nice. I'm a Jehovah's Witness.
Welcome back. We mentioned the International Holocaust Day and the attempt to preserve the memory of this significant event in history. Our reporter Shelby Weiner brings us today a different angle, which was barely known to the public. Here's more.
The Holocaust is widely considered the darkest time for humanity, but the atrocities most often remembered are those against the Jews. But the Nazis persecuted many religions and ethnicities.
But most don't even know about Jehovah's Witnesses and what they went through during that regime. And we just felt that the time was ripe to show that to the public.
The Jehovah's Witnesses in Israel are hosting an exhibit, The Forgotten Victims of the Nazi Regime, in central Tel Aviv, in hope of teaching the public about their faith's plight in the Holocaust. Despite having heavy Holocaust education, most people in the Jewish state are not aware how far the Holocaust reached. And historians say this is an important step for Holocaust research, and that it opens new doors of understanding to Hitler and his regime.
In the recent years, we are more and more aware of the fact that there were other groups of people who were tortured, imprisoned, dehumanized. And in order to see the whole picture of the cruelty of this regime, of this German National Socialist regime, we have to learn about all groups.
The Jehovah's Witnesses were one of many to be victimized during the Holocaust. Exhibits like this one in Tel Aviv show survivors' stories and hold their trials up for the world to see and to remember.
All right, joining us now is Robert from Jehovah's Witnesses Israel. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, good evening.
I find it so shocking that we really don't know much about the plight of the Jehovah's Witnesses during the Holocaust. I mean, it was quite prevalent. There were, how involved were the Jehovah's Witness population in Europe at the time of, the Holocaust and World War II?
Yes, well, some sources say that Jehovah's Witnesses were the first hit by the Nazis and they were hit the hardest. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses were banned in the Nazi Germany in 1933. And after that, immediately their property was confiscated. They were experiencing beatings. Their children were taken from their families. Then they were sent to prisons and concentration camps. Many of them were even executed.
Wow. What was the reason that they were targeted by the Nazis?
This is a very good question, because the reason wasn't their race or their nationality. It was actually the refusal to support the Nazi regime. They were actually boldly exposing the evils of the Nazi regime, and they didn't want to go to the military. So that was the main reason.
Wow, so they were very brave.
Very brave, and they even very often were given a document in which they could renounce their faith, say, okay, I'm going to support you, I'm going to support the state, and I'm not going to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But they didn't do that. They continue to serve their God, and they continue even helping others.
Which sounds, so interesting as far as, the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses explain, because this is a very, important difference within, different forms of religion. So the Jehovah's Witnesses really believe simply in the teachings of Jesus, staying true to what his original teachings were in the early days of early Christianity?
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses base their beliefs on the whole Bible, which is the Hebrew scriptures and the Greek scriptures. This is the whole Bible, 66 books. And when it comes to their neutrality, this is what the Nazis noticed. They didn't want to support the Nazi regime. That's why they put them under pressure.
Right. Explain also just Jehovah's Witnesses and their beliefs. So they believe in God, or they only believe in Jehovah?
Well, Jehovah is God. His son is Jesus Christ. That's according to the Bible. So that's one of the basic teachings. And also Jesus Christ is considered to be the savior of mankind.
Okay, and also why it hasn't been talked about, that, how many Jehovah's Witnesses were affected by the Holocaust?
Well, you are right. Not many people spoke about it, but the good news is actually that today people speak about it more and more. And even though maybe in the past, maybe a couple of decades ago, Jehovah's Witnesses were called as the forgotten victims of the Nazi regime, today there are museums that feature Jehovah's Witnesses as the victims. There are very good websites in which you can go and check about what really happened to Jehovah's Witnesses and why they were able to withstand the pressure from the Nazi regime. There are exhibitions that we had in Tel Aviv, or in other places we have them in Europe, like in France, Germany, Sweden and Denmark, where Jehovah's Witnesses and other people, the public can learn about what really happened and why it happened.
You know, the population, the influence of the Jehovah's Witness population within Israel.
Well,
Are there a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses here?
There are about 1,700 Jehovah's Witnesses. There are other supporters of this group. And as I said, our main activity is focused on helping people to learn about the Bible. As
far as, you know, some of the holy spots, do the Jehovah's Witness community go and visit some of these spots?
We don't have any special places that we would visit to worship God. God is He can see us everywhere, so we can worship Him wherever we are. And actually, if we go back to the subject of Nazi era, this is what Jehovah's Witnesses always remembered. No matter where they found themselves, in prison, in concentration camp, or somewhere else, they knew their God hears them, He would be able to support them and give them the need. The governments in democratic nations not only respect the right of Jehovah's Witnesses to worship, but also they would give them some praise for good conduct and nice contribution to the society.
And as far as the situation in Russia, I mean, have the Jehovah's Witnesses...
Breaking news tonight from Hamburg, Germany. Police are investigating a deadly shooting at a church reportedly used by Jehovah's Witnesses. Authorities say several people were killed, and the gunman is believed to be among the dead. There's no word yet of any possible motive for the attack.
Have the Jehovah's Witnesses have to go kind of underground, or do many of them have to, you know, are they fleeing?
Well, perhaps some of them were leaving the country. I don't have all the facts because this is a completely different topic.
Yeah.
But still, I know that most or the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses continue to serve Jehovah God as they can.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for coming in and explaining a very interesting story and piece of history. Thank you very much, and we will be right back after the break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Just last week, the world took time out to remember the Holocaust, where we know 6 million Jewish people died at the hands of Nazis in their concentration camps. Evil. The world should never, ever forget. But those of the Jewish faith weren't the only people in those death camps. Foreign and political prisoners, the homeless, and also Jehovah's Witnesses. We have some guests here on The Factor Uncensored tonight to talk about that dark part of American or the world history. Doran Gamble and Ruben Espinales. Glad to have you here on The Factor Uncensored. A lot of people, when they think about the Holocaust, Ruben, it's only the Jewish community that they think about. But like we said, there were a long list of people, and Jehovah's Witnesses were on that list.
You're exactly right. And it's something that has affected so many people, displaced so many people, a lot of people died. But then there was Jehovah's Witnesses that were part of that group. When we think about over 4,200 went to concentration camps, 1,600 ended up dying at the hands of the Nazi regime. And when we think about those examples, they stand out because they chose to be in that position because they would not support the atrocities that the government was committing.
And they also, it's my understanding through reading history, they gave the Jehovah's Witnesses an opportunity to sign a waiver. Like, I denounce my religion and you could live, and they refused to do it.
That's right. It's interesting. One story bears that out. Wilhelm Kusero, he was 25 years old. Can you imagine a young person like that? They told him he could sign a waiver right before he was standing in front of the firing squad. So can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. He puts on the blindfold and they said, here's one last chance. And he said, this young person, I'll give you one request, shoot straight.
Wow.
What integrity. So they wanted the witnesses to change their faith. They wanted them to kill Jews and others. They wanted them to do this, even though many of these witnesses were Aryan Germans, the same race that Hitler was.
And what we're talking about when it came to the Jehovah's Witnesses, they were one of the few groups where they were persecuted for their religion. The others were political stands, how they looked, and we're talking about religion here.
That's right. Kristen King is a historian that summarized the thought that there was the effort was of every Jehovah's Witness to ensure that even the most minimal influence of Nazism would not affect the life of a Jehovah's Witness. Something as simple as a Heil Hitler was something that Jehovah's Witnesses refused to do because Heil Hitler made it seem that Hitler would provide some form of salvation. By Bible reading, we knew that that's not the case. So even if something as simple as refusing to do Heil Hitler really just emphasized how different and the refusal to support those atrocities.
And Dorian, are people surprised that there are many more groups out there than just the Jews who suffered under the boot of the Nazis?
They're shocked to hear that, really, because as students of history, it's kind of swept under the rug. But the important thing to realize, it's not dead history, because of the fact that we're experiencing injustices today.
Yeah.
So as people look at that injustice, they can find ways to cope.
And there are still countries today where Jehovah's Witnesses are persecuted and put into jail, right?
That's exactly right. In 1945, one of our publications mentioned that it could be that those ideas that were part of the Nazi regime of hatred towards smaller groups, oppression, that it could very well resurface, rebranded, and adopted by a new generation. So that's happening, for example, in Russia. It's just one example I can share with you. There's a 70-year-old person. She has heart failure. She just had a stroke. She was condemned to 2 years in prison for simply talking about the Bible in Russia. So it's something that's happening all around the world. And it's one of those things where if we don't keep in mind what those lessons were from the Holocaust, it could very well happen again.
Now, if your members or members of your congregation are found where they are arrested, but you guys do support them with legal teams to help them out, right?
That's correct. We try our best to make sure we support them, but the best way is having that strong bond. We call ourselves brothers and sisters. That's how we feel about each other.
What we're most concerned about is everyone gets access to spiritual food, spiritual association, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the unity that we get when we do our bi-weekly meetings.
And because of that, that strong bond helps them to endure. That's according to one scripture we love in Romans 15:4. Through our endurance and through the scriptures, we find comfort. And that's what we want people to have, too. We encourage anybody who's having a situation where they're experiencing injustice, they're feeling down. Perhaps it's the social injustice I think you're talking about later in the show. There's a hope for that. And JW.org has a lot of good resources. We encourage people to go there to find the same thing that helped those witnesses in the 40s to endure.
Both Robert and Dorian, that JW.org is a place to go if you want to get more information about your events that are coming up or anything else that's going on with the organization. And Mr. Hendricks, I'm guessing that you can stay on, if you want to find out what's going on about how you're going to transition out of it, that may be a good place to go.
JW.org is really the most translated website in the world, more than 1,000 languages. It's available to all, and it has all the information that's needed in order to get up-to-date information on both the pandemic, where the organization is, and also to receive information on our virtual conventions, which we deliver through that site. So it's a powerful site, and we encourage those to go to it.
And I will add this, that for those who are curious about the religion, the faith as is practiced by Jehovah's Witnesses, it's a good place to go and see the similarities or differences between what you may believe and what they believe and whether or not you're a good fit as well. So Robert Hendricks, Dorian Gamble, thank you so much for what you're doing, and stay safe, and thank you for bringing us up to date on what's going on in your organization and your faith. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
My suffering, and at all different levels, I know people listening to me right now, you're suffering at different levels and different degrees of intensity. Might I interpret it as Jesus living his cross in me even now, so that my suffering is contributing, maybe in a manner that I can't entirely see, but is contributing to the salvation of the world. Dumb suffering, just dumb evil? No. John Paul II was so good on this, wasn't he? He said, never pass up the opportunity when you suffer. He didn't mean that masochistically. He meant never pass up the opportunity to interpret that suffering as a participation in the suffering of Christ. He wants to live his life in you. You're the branch, he's the vine. So of course we suffer in this life because the Master suffered.
Now, if we think about it, we're not born as friends of God, because we're born as Actually, if you think about it, we're born as enemies of God. Sometimes you'll hear people say of a little baby, look at that little angel. But more accurate would be to say, welcome to Apollo. Now, if we think about it,
Welcome back to Good Day. I know you know the answer to this one, Stephen.
So we all have patience. Exercise patience is the theme of one of the biggest annual conventions you'll find in the Glass City. Mark Smith is here from the 2023 Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses. So Mark, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Patience, such a key word.
It's a virtue, they say,
yes.
right?
Exercising that patience is something that's difficult for so many, and that's the theme of the convention. Why was that chosen?
Well, when you think about the world we live in today, whether we're driving in traffic, whether we're at work, dealing with our kids, or any situation.
He's talking to me, I think, yeah.
Patience is needed. And it's something that is needed, and we have to exercise it. And if we do, it helps us to be better people, better husbands, better wives, helps us better in the workplace, helps us even in our health. Exercising patience can help the whole community.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. You know, we just feel better when we're patient.
That's true.
You know, we just feel better. So talk a little bit about the convention and, you know, what folks will be experiencing as they come out.
Well, we're happy to be back in Toledo. We had to exercise patience for the last 3 years.
Pandemic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had to keep people safe, so we didn't have our large conventions, which we love our large conventions. We're one of the largest convention organizations in the world.
Remember the good old days before the pandemic when people coming to your door didn't have to wear a mask? And sometimes they were friendly members of the Jehovah's Witnesses coming to talk about faith and to gain your interest as well. They also had huge conferences through the year that drew millions. Well, that changed drastically when the COVID pandemic hit and took what seemed to be a main part of the faith away. Well, the faith and the millions who follow it still alive, and there's some noticeable changes. But they're good changes for the organization. Robert Hendricks is a U.S. spokesman for Jehovah's Witnesses. Dorian Gamble is a local media representative. Thank you both for joining me. Mr. Hendricks, I know we talked earlier, what an abrupt change, because you have millions of people through conferences around the world on a regular basis. Then when you went virtual, that was abrupt, but it seemed to have been successful.
Well, you know, you can't plan for a pandemic. So as we think about what happened a year and a half ago, 19 months ago, it's not only unprecedented, it's historic. And we look back on it and we come out of this, we think, a better organization, better able to serve the 8.6 million Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. When we went to a virtual format in meetings and also in our ministry and also with our conventions, it was something that new for us, but we had been preparing for virtual environment for many years. You know, our JW library, 15 million users each month on 15 million devices, 600,000 audio and video, all free. And so we've delivered content for free in a virtual way for many years. And so to shift our meetings and to shift our ministry to a virtual environment was really the next step. And I think our brothers and sisters around the country and around the world have done very well.
Fabulous videos that'll cover that topic, patience, and the principles that we can apply in our daily lives that can help us exercise it in a better way.
So who is this convention for? Is it just for Jehovah's Witnesses, or are you guys inviting everyone to be involved in this?
No, this convention is for the whole Northwest Ohio community. Anybody can come. As a matter of fact, for the last 3 weeks, we've been going door to door, handing out invitations to individuals, letting them know that they are welcome and we want them to come to the exercise patience, being there to learn those principles about exercising patience.
And Mark, you mentioned for the past 3 weeks, you all have been inviting people door to door. And many people know Jehovah's Witnesses for doing that. So delivering a message from the Bible, is that something that people are going to be able to hear at this convention?
Oh, definitely, definitely. All the talks they'll be given have a Bible-based theme. Exercising patience. We think about one of the talks that'll be given is about how God has been patient with us. You know, so how can we imitate that in our daily lives?
You know, you mentioned going door to door, not being able to have these conventions in person the last couple of years. Why is it so important that you are able to go door to door, to get back together in person to host these conventions?
In person is better. We had a virtual platform for the last 3 years, which worked fabulous, you know, but it's like a fire. You can have a fire on a TV screen and you can see the flames flicker and everything, but you can't feel the warmth. So being together at our large conventions, we love it. We get to see our friends who we haven't seen in a while. The discussions, the just the camaraderie.
So how many people are you all expecting over the next 2 weekends? And also, is there a fee associated with this?
So first of all, in the United States alone, there's going to be over 708 conventions in 144 different cities in 35 different languages.
Oh, wow.
Around the world, there's going to be 6,000 conventions in 500 languages. And so even here in Northwest Ohio, it's bigger than that, because you have people coming from Ohio and Pennsylvania. And between the 6 days, we're expecting about 20,000 individuals to come here.
Oh, wow. And is there a fee associated?
Yeah, can people register? Sign up?
There is no fee. The seats are free. Come in. We want you to come in and enjoy this Exercise Patience Convention.
Very good. So
Good. Over at the Glass City Center. Mark, thanks so much
thanks
for joining
so
us.
much for being here today. You know the answer to this one, Stephen.
Welcome back. With me now is Robert Hendricks, and he is the U.S. spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. And so we are here almost 2 years into big changes, obviously, for your organization. You know, being out in the community and talking with folks, that's kind of your mainstay. So tell us a little bit about what had to change in response to COVID-19.
You're right. We're very public. Our public meetings are open to the public. Our conventions, we invite everybody to our conventions. Our yearly annual celebration of the commemoration of the death of Christ, that's also, we invite everybody to that. And we go door to door, and we stand on street corners and in subway stations and in rail stations and on docks, and all of that stopped March 20th of 2020 because, frankly, we were most concerned with the sanctity of life. We recognize that being public, being in person, knocking on doors, it would really put not only us in danger, but also our communities in danger, our neighbors in danger, and really, frankly, who wanted to get a knock on the door in April of 2020? What's interesting, though, is that it's persisted. We have changed as an organization. We've shifted to a virtual ministry. We shifted to a virtual meetings.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What was the decision behind not restarting, as many other congregations have, and how has that changed, and what do you see going forward?
Well, it's really an abundance of caution, and we think that it has been a wise move. When you look at how it's unified us as a congregation, as an organization, we're all on the same page, all 13,000 congregations. We're operating virtually. These meetings that we're having are very well attended. We have an amazing attendance at our meetings that has really outgrown what we ever expected. We've grown 3% just in the last year, in the second year of the pandemic. We have also found a way to reach our neighbors with letters, with virtual Bible studies, whether that's FaceTime or Skype or Zoom. And our virtual meetings have been robust. We've had, because most of our meetings are now lecture-based, we have some talks, but most of them are discussion-based. And so people have enjoyed the meetings. Our virtual convention, which really we schedule typically about 6,000 around the world conventions, about 800 here in the United States and locally as well in South Carolina, Columbia. And when you look at what we have done virtually, it's been nothing short of a modern-day miracle. Because within a few weeks of the pandemic, shutting down our annual conventions all over the world, we went virtual and we put a 3-day convention online in a virtual format in 500 languages. So we reached many more people. And in the second year of that, people were very, very interested in this, and millions have watched this convention. Along with, we provided in 100 sign languages. We have voice descriptions for the blind. And so we've become a much more accessible organization, and we've been able to serve many different publics in a very different way. Our congregants have been very happy, they're content, they're unified, and they're peaceful.
Well, I think people are finding that when they offer a virtual opportunity, that more people maybe do show up because it's easier for them to do so. So we have about a minute left. So let's talk about going forward. Do you kind of think that you're going to be staying with this format, or what do you think? Maybe a hybrid? What are you thinking about the last minute here?
Well, you know, we piloted in-person meetings down in Puerto Rico and also in Connecticut just when at the nadir of the infection over the last several months. And we believe we're going to really go with a hybrid format in the future. And we will have the option, because right now we're masked up at our meetings. When we did our pilots, we're all vaccinated. So we will have an option, no doubt, at least in the beginning, perhaps forever, where those who want to stay home and have that virtual experience will continue that, but also be able to include themselves in the discussion. What we're most concerned about is everyone gets access to spiritual food, spiritual association, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the unity that we get when we do our biweekly meetings.
So for those of us who would like more information on the congregation here locally, how does somebody get in touch with you to know about those?
Well, JW.org is the portal to everything Jehovah's Witnesses. And so go to JW.org, most translated website by far on the web. Scroll down, you'll see Find a Meeting or get in touch with someone. Either one of those options will find you a local meeting. You can get a local contact and a local phone number, a Zoom code to get into our meeting, a local convention, or simply be visited virtually or by phone by somebody locally. All of that is available on jw.org.
Well, thank you for that information. That is perfect. We'll head to the website if we need more information. And congratulations on your pivot during this crazy time. And thank you for being with us today, Robert.
Thank you, Betsy. It's been a real pleasure.
Very impressive the way that you have already kind of pre-positioned your organization to be able to take advantage of the changes that you've had to make. Dorian, I know for the month of November you're focusing on a particular kind of outreach, and you have kind of a title to it as well, which is rather uplifting. Talk about that.
Yes, the goal of this campaign here in Houston and around the world is to distribute a special edition of the Watchtower magazine with the subject, A Better World is Near. Now, the message is about hope. And we know that hope is not what we know, but it's actually what we believe. And this magazine really bridges the gap between hope or knowledge and belief. For instance, many people in Houston have prayed the Lord's Prayer. They know it. But what does it really mean when that kingdom comes? Well, this magazine answers the question. And it's interesting, as we kind of understand the importance of hope, we see that it can help us physically, but Jehovah's Witnesses believe it can help us spiritually. In fact, we believe strongly that hope is not knowing what you believe. It's actually believing what you know. So this special digital edition will be distributed one-on-one, and it will also be distributed on jw.org in a digital format.
So, and I'm assuming, both Robert and Dorian, that jw.org is a place to go if you want to get more information about your events that are coming up or anything else that's going on with the organization. And Mr. Hendricks, I'm guessing that you can stay on, if you want to find out what's going on about how you're going to transition out of it, that may be a good place to go.
JW.org is really the most translated website in the world, more than 1,000 languages. It's available to all, and it has all the information that's needed.
I love you back. I really do. Gosh, where do I start? I have to thank Jehovah God for this. I was down and out, and he helped me today, and I just said prayers, and just not to win, but to be strong and to be healthy.
Yes,
and, you know, in the end, I was able to come through, so I have to give glory to him first and foremost. I also have to congratulate Maria, who played a wonderful, wonderful match tonight. So I'm really honored that I got to play you in the final, so thank you very much.
Your being increases in the measure that you give it away. Put that on your refrigerator. Live by it. Every instinct in us says, no, take things to yourself. Hang on to them. Hoard them. Keep them. Make sure you've got enough. People want some, keep them at bay. That's your possession. But that runs counter to the basic logic of the universe, because the creator of the universe is love. We say God is love. Love isn't something God does from time to time. It's not one of God's attributes. It's what God is, right through. Love, therefore, is the secret. Love is the great mystery, the hidden truth of all things. And the way it works is the more you give of your life. That's what love means, to will the good of the other. The more the divine grace increases in you. Love. We say God is love. Love isn't something God does from time to time. It's not one of God's attributes. It's what God is, right through. Love, therefore, is the secret. Love is the great mystery, the hidden truth of all things. And the way it works is the more you give of your life. That's what love means.
Jehovah's Witnesses World Headquarters is doubling its size. News 12's Darius Radzius has more on this story.
Matthew Mordecki with Jehovah's Witnesses gave me a tour of their 249-acre wooded property to show me where they're planning to build their massive production studio.
A state-of-the-art audio and video production studios on site, as well as the residents that will be there to work in those facilities.
We stand on street corners and in subway stations and in rail stations and on docks, and all of that stopped March 20.